first preposition was that it is the distinction between pnimis and chitzenis, because you notice there is pnimis and chitzenis. Even at its very highest inception, there is pnimis and chitzenis, although that is difficult to identify, but it's imperative to say so, as we learned. Then there's another element, that ohrot are also referred to as shemes, as names. Shem Havaya, this is the name from ohrot. And in Shem, there are different madrigas in Shem. As we said in Shem Havaya, there is the Shem Havaya B'nikut Kometz, Pasach. In other words, there is a distinction when it comes to names. What in fact is, where does name fit into this entire picture? So names are described as being levushim, garments. These levushim, the garments, this is what enables the ohrot to ultimately join into the keili. So we leave that alone for the moment, as we already did. We'll focus in on the aspect of names that are described here in more detail. And that is that the name reaches in very deeply into the person. Excuse me just 1 second. No, I'm fine.
Into the person.
Right.
This is we're kind of getting into this, like we just said, because it helps us understand light coming into keili.
Right. Lights per se. Even at its inception.
Okay.
What do we see regarding names? We see that name is something which relates to the very highest and the very life force of the person. And if you address a person by name, his response is instantaneous. Even if he is in faint, first it says if he is preoccupied, he still responds to his name. Even if he's in faint, the great deep faint, it is possible to restore him back to consciousness by calling his name. What does this tell us? That the name is of such significance to the person that it brings it back to himself. We'll discuss this phenomenon of significance of the name in a moment, which we already discussed yesterday. So 2 lines from the bottom of page 110, the Rebbe begins to discuss this. We already went through this. We just want to start at this point. At the end of the second line from the bottom, Ach gam zeh muva. However, within recognizing the significance of name, Ayin brings a person back, even from faint. Still, it is understood. Is it to be understood that Hashem Eino Sichloi, the name is not, in fact, his Sechel. And the Rebbe says, what means Sichloi, his Sechel? The Hainu nishmato. I wish everybody pay attention to these 4 words. Sichloi means nishmato, his nishom. We discussed it yesterday, and I want that we should, to the extent possible, this is very far from our normal orientation. That Sechel is nishmato.
Where are we, Rabbi?
We're on page Mem Tes, bottom line. We have to focus in on these words. Sechel means nishmato. What does nishmato mean? The word neshamah, if I may go into this a little bit, the word neshamah is actually a verb, breathing, a breath. Breathing is the name of breathing is neshamah, breathing. What is the phenomenon of breathing? I've discussed many times already. Breathing is a constant repetition, constantly repeating. He takes a breath and then he takes another breath and takes another breath. Before each breath, there is something that compels him to take that breath. He wants that breath. Why? What's so compelling about it?
In some other instances, speaking of breathing, we said the air is forced into him.
I'll explain that too. But breathing is a constant repetitive thing. What's behind this repetition? That a person is constantly repeating breathing. And essentially this is his will to live. Will to live is a very deep union. Sechel is the first conscious awareness of that will. That will is not merely a will to survive. This is the stupidest thing ever been presented. That will is the experience of life, the significance of life, what it stands for. This is what neshamah is. This is why over here, neshamah and sechel are synonymously used. Sechel is an awareness. Sechel is what makes sense of things. And here they're used interchangeably. Because the will to live in a human being is not the will to live in an animal. It is his perception of the value of the truth of life. Because through the truth of life he connects to the source of life. This is where the point, Sichloi hayon nishmato. Now, where is name come to be confused with Sichloi? Because we said name is of tremendous, this is what we're involved in, the name from name. Name is of such a great significance to the point where it brings a person back from a deep faint. Now, nonetheless, we have to point out, don't confuse name and say that name is Sichloi, which then would mean name is synonymous with nishmato. Where is that coming? What's the possibility of confusing between name and Sechel, and then a step further into neshamah? So this again we discussed last night. Name represents the phenomenon that his presence here has an element of truth, not merely a functional thing, not merely an experiential thing. Like we said, a baby is born, and at birth, before he even opens eyes, before he even has any functional expression, we give him a name. And what is the significance of giving this name? Mind you, we give a name by separated for a girl, by a Beis, by a child. When inaugurated into mitzvahs, what did it have to do with mitzvahs? Why does a name have to do with mitzvahs? Mitzvahs is the definition of our life. Mitzvahs is the compelling element in life. Mitzvahs is about that which brings God into our existence. And that's what names are about. Who gives a person the right, so to speak, the status of having a name, of having a true identity, a true presence? This is the Creator. This is why it would be possible to confuse and say, Shema is a Sichloi. It's synonymous. So we say that no, Shmoi is not Sichloi. Sichloi is deeper than Shmoi. Shmoi is already at the point where it becomes closer to function. We'll discuss that. So we had, I think, a very appropriate illustration of the phenomenon that we're discussing here. I'd like to repeat it because it's a good approach, a good means to understand this whole point over here. The motion was from a company that develops whatever it is, an entrepreneurial company.
Sorry, this is going to be a mashal that's illustrating the ninshal
of name.
Which
of Sichloi.
Right. Which
nishmato. Let me first take away some confusion. Name and Sechel and neshamah could conceivably be confused interchangeably. As we said before, a baby is named at the moment of birth, which seems to be saying that his very life is expressed, is captured in the infant name.
How do we know that his name, if he's doing it? I mean, we formally we
Let me
give
know.
him a name at the bris.
By boy and bris and by girl at birth. So the what is the significance of that? Why do you give him a name at that point? Nobody needs to refer to name, because this establishes his presence in the world as a reality. Now he can begin to develop a presence. Without a name, he can begin to develop a presence. There's no entity there. He's there, but he's not present in the world. He has no means to engage in the world. With the name, he has a means to engage in the world. But the name only provides a means to engage in the world. The name does not provide his ability to engage in the world. This is his Sechel. This is his neshamah. That's internal to him.
This distinction that we're making between name and that which is higher, namely neshamah, Sechel, is that to help us understand ohrot, pnimius, and chitzonia, or this is a separate?
No, we stepped away from pnimius and chitzonia. We're talking about the presence of a name or the absence of a name.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel for like in what setting, like how and why.
Forget about setting.
Fine.
First,
Like where are we going with it? What are we trying to learn out from it?
we're trying to understand what happens. How does tzimtzum affect?
Oh, okay, good.
How does tzimtzum help? You go back to if you drive and you make a right turn, and you're driving on this street, you have to go back to the corner and see how you got there from how you got here, or do you orient yourself in the street where you are?
Well, both, right? You need to know where you are and you need to know where you're trying to get.
But you want to get to, but where you came from.
Right.
Okay. Again, I will attempt to explain it if you're coming with me. Otherwise, I'm just going to drop it. These are not things that are tangible, that you can put in your pocket. These are things which, if at all, are perceived in our Sechel and the finest element of Sechel. But as we have the rule, whatever the Rebbe brings out, we try to explain and understand. But only if we are willing to go there. So the Rebbe says we have to know that Shmoi is not Sichli, which would mean Nishmato. Where is Sechel and Nishmato come together? So I explained. Nishmato, this is the force of will in the person, manifesting the fact that he's constantly going back to it. He takes a breath, takes another breath, takes another breath, another breath. What is behind this taking another breath? The will to live. What is behind the will to live? The recognition of the significance and value of life. Again, not survival. This is the stupidest thing. It is life, the experience of life, the truth of life, the godly presence in life. That's why it comes into sichloi, not in his stomach, but in his seichel. Where is one aware of significance in the seichel? beyond the Sechel. When a person comes into the world, the neshamah comes into the guf, and the neshamah, the Sechel comes into the guf, he acquires a name. That's the next step. So the Rebbe says clearly, don't confuse the name with Sechel. Sechel, this is the essence of the person. This is nishmato. The name is how this neshama is presented in the world. Presented in the world. As we're going to see a few lines later, the name is that which enables the Sechel to be established in keili. As we explained many times, keili means how you relate to the outside world.
Is the name a levush or a keili?
A levush. When you call a person by name, he responds. Why? Because he figures you're calling him, you want him. He responds because you've touched him, you called him directly. It's not a reference, it's him. Because his presence in this world is identified by the fact that he has a name in this world, which means he has a presence. And that's what you're calling. Interesting. How do the street people refer to each other?
Yo.
Yeah. What does that tell you? There's no real presence. In the American culture, I don't know if it still goes on. I think it kind of dissipated, but there certainly was a time. People did not refer. It was too lazy to pronounce the whole name. Dave. Dave is not a name. David is a name. What's Dave? A reference. Why not say David? Well, what's the point? He knows what I mean. But are you referring to a human being, or are you just alluding to something? David is an allusion. David is not a name.
It's interesting that the abbreviated version seems to have more affection. I call somebody Michael, it's more cool. I call him Mike, Mikey, endearment.
No. Mikey is, in Yiddish you say Michaela, Michaela,
Yeah.
not Mich.
Ah, so that would be like an endearment, right?
That's an endearment, but the name, Yankele, Avremele, a whole full name. There's another phenomenon within this culture of
Avi?
Avi is also see the Avi has a certain thing, has a redeeming factor, because Avraham was first called Avram. So some people actually call themselves Avram, not Avraham. So then Avi is like Avram. But also it's not appropriate. The proper way is to say the name. You can't call a person to the Sefer Torah by Avi. Avi ben Dave. It's not a phenomenon that occurred to me, just to bring things home. You're familiar that these dungarees that people wear, and this is like the beat it generation. You pay extra money to have the dungarees torn.
Right. Or worn out.
What's behind that? What's behind that? Behind that is a statement. I do not claim to have a real presence here. I'm just into myself. My own experience inside myself, that's what it is. In the world, I don't exist. The world belongs to God. Let him deal with it. I live in my own world. The Rebbe, throughout his lifetime, wore a necktie. Before Menachem, the Rebbe always adjusted his necktie. I don't know if you noticed.
What do you say? Before the daughters, he knows what he was going to adjust.
There was always adjusted his necktie. I'm not suggesting one way or the other. I'm just explaining what reality of life is. Every movement in the Rebbe was significant. Especially when it comes to Menachem. A name is deserving of an entity that has a real presence, a God-given presence in the world. That's the only place where you can get it. So therefore the name is the reality of the person. So the Rebbe says, but you understand, that's still not his Sechel. This is still not his Sechel. It is true that he gets a name on account of the fact that he has Sechel. But Sechel itself is beyond, is above that. The name is that because he has Sechel, so that enables his Sechel to be expressed in the world, ultimately. But the Sechel itself is in a different, is a completely different reality. Sechel itself, this is nishmato, this is mamash, his godly presence.
The Sechel and neshamah, you can it could be before he comes down to the world, but by name, that's only when he's here in the world.
Right. Why? We're actually preempting everything, but you have no choice. Because in order to relate to the goof, to an external entity, you have to present the name. You have to present the Sechel in a manner that the goof can relate to it. Who are you? What do you stand for?
the group cannot relate directly to the light, to the Sechel.
But life per se, what do you want from me?
It's really different realm.
As I said many times, think about this. You can walk. The ability to walk, intentionally to be everywhere, yes. Can the goof be everywhere at the same time? Can the goof even relate to that? When you walk, you can walk only in one direction at a time. That's the name. That's your purpose. Where are you going? I can go there and there. You'll never get any. You'll never want to step out from the first step. Your ability to walk is not to walk in every direction. It is to choose where you want to walk and go in that direction. That's the ability to walk. If you can't make that choice, you don't have the ability to walk. That's the name. On what basis are you making that choice? Since walking is a phenomenal element in the person, you have identified something significant in this direction. That's why you give it a name. You choose that direction. Time is up. I just want to quickly, because last night I gave this mashal. It's an excellent mashal. A company with many officers, and the officers have meetings, and they propose all kinds of ideas what the company should do and so forth. None of them are involved in the essence of the company. They're involved in the functional aspect. How do we make more money? How do we improve on this product and so on? The chairman of the board comes in, and the whole tone of discussion changes. Chairman of the board makes a decision not on the basis of expediency and profit, but what is the company meant to be? Why do I need this company? What is it about? What's the impact on the world that I want to make with this company? Completely different perspective. That's a central reality. Okay, this is it for this morning.
la la